In this video we are going to be looking at the V360 multiplier, and we will be looking at the DB20 multiplier. Now they're both from the WSB product range. This one is geared more towards shore and this one is geared more towards boat. Now you can use either on either if you want, but in generally this is shore and this is boat. So we will start with the shore one. Right, let's have a look at the packaging. Pretty straightforward packaging. Just says it's a multiplier, so it's got 3 ball bearings, gear ratio 4:1, and that shows you there's another one in the range which is the V350, and I think the difference is pretty much the size of the spool. I mean the reel will be slightly bigger obviously, but it is the spool that it's based on. So for this particular one, it holds 310 yards of 12-pound line, 250 yards of 16-pound line, or 210 yards of 20-pound line. And for those in millimeters, you've got 320 of 0.35 millimeters, 250 of 0.40, 160 meters of 0.50, 145 of 0.55, and 120 meters of 0.60. And that's pretty much fit for the box, which is fine. Don't need loads of the same old product for trying to sell the product with the same stuff that every reel's got pretty much. Here it is. Looks just like a casting reel. Feels alright, slight bit of knock there, but I don't think I've ever had one that hasn't had that slight knock, so nothing to worry about too much. You've got your ratchet there. Quite a loud ratchet, again, that's good. It'll let you know when the fish is there. This is just a plastic button basically on here. All it will be is probably a little bit of wire in here, not wire, flat plate which touches a cog, and that's what causes the noise. That's what they usually are. So you've got your release of the line. Yep, everything seems fine. It's strongly tighten this up. Yep, that tightens up really well. You've got your level wind here, which is a little bit rattly, but yeah, quite often they are, but that one is, say, a little bit rattly. The more you might be able to tighten it with the screw underneath. Now as far as the level wind goes, when it comes to beach reels, I tend to remove this. I either buy them without it, or in this case I would remove that, take it apart, take that off. Simply because if you remove that, you'll get a much further cast. You won't get the drag. As the line shoots out like this, you're not going to get the drag of that on it, and it'll mean your cast will go a lot further. So a little tip there if you like, want to get your line a long way. The plate that attaches to the rod is good as well. It's riveted. Now I have had them before. I had one, an Abu 6 years ago. It was soldered there or welded there, and I banged the rod once, not that hard, and it actually, the solder joints went on it. Now I took it back to the store, and the chap there very kindly riveted it back for me, free of charge, which was really nice. So I ended up with a riveted reel anyway. So I always prefer them when they're riveted as opposed to soldered or welded. Now on the handles side of things, these are actually like almost feel like a plastic rubber. They've got a rubber feel to them, so they're quite grippy, which is nice. Now, should we take a look inside? This is the question. The good thing about these reels is you'll see here that they actually have thumb screws. Now, means you can sometimes work on them when they're when you're on the beach and you're having any issues, or you need to check something, and it helps if I put this the right way. So what we do is just loosen these off, and then we'll be undo them with our finger, and then we can look inside. Let me just take the screwdriver and use the other part, because you need to get in between the gears if you do it this way. too tight, so that's fine. And that one, there we go. Now those, on the good ones, they don't fall out. Some of the rubbishy reels, you'll find that these will pop out. And that they stay in, and that stays in. Now when you do this, just be a little bit careful, because you're going to have like plastic brakes for when you're casting the drag kind of thing, and they can fall off when you lift this off. They'll be on a, or should be on a bar if they're all the same. Right. Still that one's holding. Nope, still holding. We'll get there eventually. There we go, that one freed. Okay, there they are, they're in there. You see on that bar there, those little things there. You've got to watch they don't slide off, because they will slide off, so just make sure that you push them on. And the same if you lift the spool out, because you can lift your spool out like this, and you'll see in there, and we've just dropped a bearing. The bearing actually fits in that hole down the bottom there in that brass wheel, so no problem, we'll put that back in afterwards. So just be very careful when you take multipliers apart that you don't lose parts. You'll see in there that there's a plastic wheel. That's not too much of a problem, because it's only the drag and the arm the wheel's used for, which isn't so important to me for fishing, when fishing. Now this is the testing bit, this bit here. What are we made of? Now this looks good. This is, you've got mostly metal. Now these plastic parts in here, I've had problems with those on cheap reels before, but I think most of these days they are plastic. But you'll see all the wheels and that are made of metal and brass, which is a good thing. And you'll see there that the plate slides across, it's a metal plate. So yeah, I mean, pretty much like a lot of reels that are made like this. Pretty straightforward. Now if you want to pack grease in there, you can. You can put a lot more grease in there. It'll be much better for your reel, for longevity, to make your reels last longer. I wouldn't get too carried away, because there are little levers and things in multipliers which might stay stuck open if you might not spring back so easy. I'd put some in there, but don't go too crazy with it. You know, get a nice layer in there, but don't sort of jam it in so you can't squeeze anything else in there. And obviously, I've mentioned this before in another video, but when you put grease on there, try and avoid grease on the spindle. On this, use oil on this if you're using it for casting, because you will need to get distance, and that grease will slow down your casting if you put grease on these parts. Just put it on the cogs, not on the actual spindle, anywhere on the spindle or the spool area. So there you go. I mean, it looks pretty good. The only way we're going to find out is when we start using it. And like I say, I'll say this on every video. Basically, I will pin a post below the video once I've used these things or any of the equipment to any flaws or any positives about the reel when I'm using it. I'll post it so you get a much more detailed, because you could take one of these out. Somebody will say take the reel out, give it a test, you know, see if it's any good. But taking it out one time and just casting a few times isn't going to test that reel. You know, it'll just prove that it actually works when you first buy it, but it's not going to actually necessarily prove anything. What you want to know is a reel that's been used a little bit and how it performs after a little bit of time. So that is what we will do. Okay, on to the next one. Now this is the WSB this is the boat multiplier more so. This is the small one. There's actually, let's have a look at the box first. There's actually another one, which is the DB20, I think it is. Let me just see, does it say? It doesn't actually say, but I believe it is the DB20, which is a larger one. Obviously this is the small one. I couldn't actually get hold of the 30 at the time, so I bought just this one. I mean, the DB20 will just be a bigger, again, more line, that kind of thing. So this one, it's got a couple of ball bearings, it's got ratio 5:1:1, it's got a power handle, one piece aluminium spool, level wire, precision machine gears, smooth star drag, and that's just the same on that side. Its line capacity we can do from here, actually. You can see it on the box. It is 10 yards of 320 yards of 10-pound line, 240 yards of 12-pound line, and 200 yards of 14-pound line, or 0.35 millimeters is 320 meters, 0.40 is 170 meters, and 0.45 is 120 meters. So it's actually a bit less, I think, than the beach one, but it is small. It's a boat one, but it's small. So this one, the first thing you notice is the size of that handle. That is massive. That is one big ass handle for this reel. Let me just turn it off. There we go. Now it clicks all the time. It just depends how loud it clicks on which setting. So yeah, this has got one meaty handle. That is one serious handle. Now I do like a good sized handle. I mean, one great for cranking. You've got good something to grab hold of there. Here as well, being thicker, I've had problems before with I actually got it on one of the pens. I mean, I don't normally have a problem with pens, but one of the pens has actually almost gone round in the handle. I had to take the handle off and shove an old Shakespeare handle on it because it wore round. So that wasn't good because it's very thin. But this, you can see this just from the edge there. Look how thick that is. That's a nice bit of metal, and there's not, you know, you can't beat a reel that's got some good solid metal. I mean, look at the size of that button. You couldn't miss that. That is huge. It's actually built very similar to a pen, I feel. It's got the same kind of metaling and this kind of graphite. It looks very much, I mean, if you covered it up, you would say that it, you know, you could almost say that it might have been a pen, because this is how they're built, very similar. Whether they perform the same, well, that's going to be something else. Again, the plate on the back, that's riveted on. That's nice to see. Everything's very chunky. Got your level line there. That one is, yeah, that's a little loose, but it's not bad. Got your drag there, which is nice and easy to access, and actually it's got a clicking sound, so you know how much you're. That's quite nice, because quite often they're silent when you turn these. And then there's this, the alarm bit. You're not going to miss that. Fish starts ripping off that line, you're going to hear that. So that is brilliant. Because like when you're fishing on the boat, you put your rod down, you want to be able to hear that. But all in all, this looks like a really solid, well-built reel. This has actually exceeded what my expectations, what I was expecting with this reel. I wasn't expecting a lot, because again, it's not the most expensive of reels, this. It's quite a cheap one. I mean, some of these reels cost a ton of money, but this one's not bad at all. It's quite cheap. And for what you're getting here, this is, on the face of it, I mean, we'll never know fully until we've actually tested it, but on the face of it, this looks like a really good reel. I'm actually quite impressed with this. I mean, it looks like really good quality parts. So I'm not going to pull this one apart, because things get complicated with these when you start pulling all screws. You're going to have to pull all these plates off, you're going to have to take all the arm off, you're going to have to take this off. I might do it in a future video, but for now we will leave that. So no, this looks like a good reel. Looks on the face of it. I'll leave the arm on this reel, because I won't be using it for casting. Obviously this will be purely dropping down from the boat or feeding out. The spool is it's fairly small, but I would say this reel you'd probably use it for sort of lighter boat work, just general fishing. If you're fishing off the boat, you know, if you're going fishing for, I don't know, your bass or your pollock or turbot, brill, skate even, that sort of thing. It's not going to be your kind of wrecking reel. If you're going to go wrecking, you'd probably want to get the size up, or even a bigger reel. Or if you're going out into really, really deep waters, I would advise getting a bigger reel probably than this one. But for general boat fishing, if you're just going out around the coast, or even into a fairly, I mean, it holds a fair bit of line, fair depth of water. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to load this one up probably with something like anything from sort of 25 to 40 pound line, maybe braid, maybe mono. It depends. It'll probably start its life with a bit of mono. It all depends what I'm going to use. But I'm going to try it for trailing first, having on the trailing rod. But I might switch it up and use it for actually like bottom fishing for flatties and things like that. We will see. But like I say, keep an eye out in the future. If you don't see any comments on this reel yet, In the future I will be, like I say, I will pin underneath comments after using it to give you a full idea of how good this reel is or isn't. So there you have it. That's the DB, and that one, which is still in bits, which I need to put together, is the V360.